All right, gentlemen. Well, I'll do this later. We'll do this later. In any event, so we're on page 40. Talk about the mitzvah of being fruitful and multiply, and we were speaking yesterday about why women are absolved. Why women are absolved of this mitzvah. That's where we had gotten to on page 40. So now I want you to take a look at Perek Tes Pasuk Chaf, which is on page 42. And the what do you call it is over. And we get into a very, very bizarre episode here. The flood is over. They've been in there for a year in the ark. And I told you the upper quarters were for human beings. The middle quarters was for the animals, and the bottom quarters was for the waste material of the ark. And the commentaries talk about how that represents different levels. Maybe we could open that door. Keep that door open over there, okay? Thank you. Yeah, leave it open so we get some area. So that refers to the mind, and it refers to the upper level as human beings, which refers to the Torah and mitzvahs of doing the right things. The middle level is optional, like animals who don't have commands, and the lower level obviously represents the low behavior of human beings. Okay, then they finish with the flood. And you take a look at page 42, 4 lines from the bottom. Vayiyu b'nei Noach hayotzi min hateva. 4 lines from the bottom, page 42. Shem Cham v'Yefes, v'Cham hu avi Knan. The sons of Noach coming out of the Teva were Shem, Cham, and Yefes. And there's a whole discussion in the Gemara whether they're listed by age or they're listed by greatness, loftiness of character. V'Cham hu avi Knan. And it mentions that Cham is the father of Canaan. Now, this is a strange place to put it. Why would you tell me that? And later on, it's going to tell us all the children of everybody. So why does it happen to mention here? So Rashi already precedes it, and he says, "Lama hutzrach lo markein." It's the left column of Rashi, top line. Cham hu avi Canaan. Says Rashi, if you find it, please show the person next to you. Lama hutzrach lo markein. Why did he tell us over here? Lefisha Parsha asuka oba b'shichrusa shel Noach. Because the Parsha doesn't have to mean the Parsha the way we understand. Parsha means this section is going to talk about Noach's drunkenness. Shekilkel b'cham. Cham was the one who messed it up. Cham was the one who got involved. Ve'al yodo niskal al Kenan. And as a result of Cham's misdeed, Kenan, his 4th son, was cursed. Ve'adayin lo kasav toldos Cham. And it has not yet told us the children of Cham. We didn't know that, therefore the Torah precedes and lets us know, by the way, there's going to be, one of the players here is going to be somebody named Canaan. And according to some of the commentators, it was Canaan who was the initiator of the trouble here. What happens? And there's a very, very telling pasuk right now. It says, Vayochel Noach ish ha'adama. Noach became a man of the earth. Vayita karm, he planted a vineyard. So, if you notice, Noach, the first thing out of the teva, he had taken some vines with him, and the first thing he does when he comes out of the teva, out of the ark, the first thing he does is he goes and he plants a vineyard. Vineyards always carry a potential for trouble, and the first thing that Noach does is he goes and he plants a vineyard. At a deeper level, I'm not going to go into it, but at a deeper level, Noach believed that the world had come to its rectification of the sin of Adam. In the same way that Adam, the sin, according to at least one opinion, was the grape. So Noach felt that we're going to reinitiate the world with the very thing that Adam Harishon had done the Aveira with, which was grapes. The new world, which the world order, we all come from Noach. Everybody now descends from Noach. So the new world order was going to be, he was going to fix up, rectify that original sin by using wine properly, as opposed to Adam Harishon, who had misused it. That's one of the underlying themes here at a deeper level. Let's take it at a simple level. There's a very strange turn of phrase here. The Torah says he became an Ish HaAdama, became a man of the earth. And he planted a vineyard. Could have just as easily said that Vayita Noach Karam. He could have planted a vineyard. Why does it say he became a man of the earth? So the Mefarshim explained that a person who gets involved in agriculture, you become addicted. You become a man of the earth. Farmers are up at the crack of dawn, and they're up from the crack of dawn till sunset, and it's a labor of love. And you're out there addicted to the earth. You become a man of the earth, And agriculture in general is very addictive because you're planting and you're producing and you're seeing results. You're seeing very concrete results. So Noach becomes a man of the earth. There's an implied criticism here. There's an implied criticism here. You want to work the earth, work the earth. Don't get addicted to what you're doing. You ask the person, what's your job? Right? Ask everyone, what do you do? Most people in a social conversation, when you say something, hi, what do you do? What's expected is that they're going to say, I'm an accountant, or I'm a truck driver, or I'm a dentist, or I'm an astronaut. What you do is your job. Right? That's my job. Moshe Rabbeinu, by the way, didn't have a job. You ever know that he was unemployed? Moshe Rabbeinu was unemployed, 40 years in the desert. None of them had jobs. And how do you like that? You know, if they would have done a survey in the Jewish people in the desert, you know, the unemployment rate was sky high. I mean, it would have, the president would have never gotten elected with their, you know, nobody had a job. Don't you guys work? Nobody worked, right? What do you do for 40 years? Nobody had a job. Nowadays, you got to get a job. You have a job. What's your job? I'm an accountant. I keep track of other people's money. Right? That's what I was put in this world for 70 years, so that I could keep track of other people's money. That's not your job. That's not what my job is. My job is to grow as a person, that's my job. Part of my job is what I do for a livelihood because I have to support a family. That's part of my job. It's not my job. Now, having said that, do not become an annoying Baal Tshuva. And when somebody says to you, what do you do? Don't say, well, I serve Hashem with my heart and soul. Don't do that, because if I catch you, I will cause pain with my bare hands. We don't do that. If somebody, just be socially approved. Somebody says to you, what do you do? What I do is whatever it is that you do. If you do anything, I had told you, I had a friend in high school who wanted to become a shepherd. Right, because he said that you get to lie in the grass and smoke grass all day. That was his goal. That was his goal in life, right? So he instead he became an auto mechanic, and he still smokes grass. But he smokes grass, and what do you call it? And he sabotages people's cars. So at the end of the day, what's your job? What's your job? Okay, so you want to work the earth. You're a farmer. You have to work the earth, but you don't have to become a man of the earth. You don't have to become addicted to your job. There are people who, when they retire, or even when they go on vacation, sometimes a guy works a job that he hates. The guy comes home every day, I hate my job. He goes on vacation, and he can't wait to go back to work because he doesn't know what to do on vacation. Then the guy retires, people go nuts. I've done studies, people retire early, have an earlier mortality rate. Means a guy retires at 65 or 70. Now, what am I going to do? I mean, what, you were put in this world just to what do you call it? That was your whole existence was to be the foreman at a factory. That was your existence in life. So you have to identify a purpose. This is part of a purpose. The Gemara says somebody who supports a wife and children, it's as if you're doing tzedakah 24 hours. Do you know that? When you work to support a family, you're engaging in tzedakah 24 hours a day. Okay, but that's not what, you also have to learn daf yomi, you have to put on tefillin, you have to go to shul, you have to daven, you have to do mitzvahs, you have to, a lot of other things that we have to do. That's part of what you do. Happens to be a dominant part of what we do, but that's part of what we do. Now, there's an interesting medrash here. What does the Torah say next? Vayesht min hayayin, vayishkar. He drank from the wine, and he became drunk. Vayisgal b'soch oholo. He was exposed in the tent. Noach was exposed. And again, at a deeper level, there's an idea over here of the same way that Adam did not wear clothing before the original sin, that Noach is also in a state of no Yetzer Hara, and there's exposure, full exposure. Okay, this is at a very deep level. Now, here, what happens? Noach is lying exposed. So the Torah says, Vayar Cham avi Kenan es ervas aviv. Cham, the father of Kenan, could you open that door over there and pride? Sorry, gentlemen, I just opened it and keep that door open. Thanks, Evan. Vayarcha, he sees the nakedness of his father. Vayaged lishnei echav b'chutz, and he goes and he tells his two brothers outside. And again, Kenan is somehow involved here, and the commentaries point out that Kenan was the one who saw it and he told his father. So what happens? Now Noach, and then Cham goes out and he tells his brothers. Now, there's an implied, a very big criticism of Cham over here. Because remember we said the word Cham means hot. He's got that excitable nature. And it's like, hey guys, you're not going to believe it. Look, Dad's lying there naked. There's just like, okay, right, relax. Do something about it. Don't get all feverish about it. You do something. That's Cham. That's his Cham nature. Vayikach Shem vayefes es asima. Shem and Yefes take the garment. There's a very powerful idea here, gentlemen. Vayasimu al Shechem Shneim, they put on their shoulders, Vayelchu achoronis, they go backwards in a very discreet manner. Vayechasu es ervas avim, they cover up their father's nakedness. Upneim achoronis vervas avim, Lord, they did not see his nakedness. So they do this in a very, very discreet manner. Who was the initiator of this? Who initiated it? Shem. Shem initiated it. Now, if you take a look at Rashi, right column, 2 lines from the top. We'll just right before we turn on the air conditioning. Vayikach Shem vayefes. It says Shem and Yefes. Ein ksiv vayikhu. It doesn't say Rashi, right column 3. It doesn't say they took. Ela vayikach, he took. Limeid al Shem shenisatze b'mitzvah yoser miyefes. Shem was the initiator of the mitzvah. Shem went to us, and therefore it's ascribed to him. Lekach zachu bano v'talis shel tzitzis. The Jewish people merited a talis. He covered with a garment, therefore we get a garment that we put tzitzis on. That's a reward for what he did. The Yefes zacha lekvuras bra. What did Yefes get? He also gets something. His children eventually, in the battle of Gog and Magog, his children will be destroyed. He's not. We don't come from Yefes. We come from Shem. His children will be buried. Shenemar etein legog makom sham kever. Okay. V'cham shebiza es aviv. Cham, who degraded his father. Nemar bezaro kedinoig melech Ashur eshevi mitzrayim v'zgolus kush narim kedim orom. His descendants eventually will be taken into captivity and they're going to walk naked. Okay. So you see several lessons here. Lesson number 1. Is there some sort of what happens by the ancestors gets passed along? What happens by the ancestors, somehow it passed along either as a merit, sometimes it's in the spiritual genetics, and it gets transferred along. We see this theme. There's a theme we see over and over in the Torah, that there's always what you do. Even more than that. What did Shem do? Shem initiated it. Shem picks it up. He could have taken the talis by himself. Maybe we could turn on the air. What do you call it? He could have, Shem could have done it on his own. Thank you very much. Shem could have done it on his own. Yefes joins in, and Yefes gets rewarded. That shows you that every single good thing you do, nothing's insignificant. Even if you join in, it's not significant. The Gemara says, if 2 witnesses, remember we're talking about Zomimim, Edim Zomimim and Shir? Talk about Edim Zomimim. If 2 guys are witnesses, and a 3rd guy joins in on them, and then he gets nailed with them, we didn't need him. They would have been 2 witnesses without him. 2 witnesses is enough. The 3rd guy joined him for something negative, and now he dies if they get zomamed. And the same thing when it comes to a mitzvah. If you see a group of people doing a mitzvah, you could join in. So you should join in with the group doing a mitzvah. And then you're going to get rewarded, even if they don't, theoretically, they don't need you. When do you join in? By the way, you join in if you're not doing something more important, like learning Torah. Don't join just to be part of the group. But if you're not doing something significant, right? If you're reading a book, or you're watching a ball game, well, that's significant. If you're not doing something significant, so stop what you're doing and go and join them. Go and join the group and do a mitzvah, right? And then you're going to be rewarded, even though they then theoretically didn't need you. And where's the reward? It carries on for generations later. We're going to see this more. We're going to see more of this generational business, but it carries on for generations later. Now, there's an interesting medrash here. Listen to this medrash. The medrash says that when Noach went to plant the vineyard, he had a partner. Anybody know who his partner was? The Satan.
The Satan?
The Satan was Noach's. The Medrash said the Satan was Noach's partner in this vineyard. And it says that he went with Noach when he planted the vineyard, and he shechted a lamb. And he drained the blood of the lamb into the vineyard. Then he shechted a lion. And he drained the blood of the lion into the vineyard. Then he shechted a monkey. Then he shechted a chazer, a pig. And he drained their blood into the vineyard. That's what the Medrash says, right? And he became partners with Noach. Any idea? I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean? Anybody got an idea?
Power.
The answer, what's that?
Power. Different powers.
Different powers of what?
Drunkenness.
Yes. Different stages of drunkenness. There are different stages of drunkenness. The first stage, when you have a drink, like they always, I once read that the American cocktail party, when you go to a cocktail party, the first thing you do is you grab a drink, because they've done studies on this. When you're in a crush of people, most of them who are strangers, you're very nervous, and you need something to calm yourself down. what does the first drink do? That's what you do, right? Get to the drink. First thing is a drink. Why do we have every Friday night, you sit down on Shabbos, you sit at a Shabbos table. What do we make Kiddush on? Make Kiddush on wine, right? Wine, ideally, it should be an alcohol. We all know what happens to alcohol, with alcohol. Why do you drink wine? Make Kiddush on wine. Well, it's not just an accident. Wine is the important beverage at every significance of wedding and a bris. And there's always wine when we celebrate. But it's a very real reason, that is a very practical reason. The Torah says, okay, 6 days you work, unless you learn in Kollel, joke, right? 6 days you work, and on one of these secular Israeli politicians, one of the most virulently anti-religious Israeli politicians, one of his election campaign was, hey, the Torah says you work for 6 days. These guys don't work for 6 days. They don't work at all. I thought it was very clever. That was his, right there. Yeah, let him try learning in Kollel, and he'll see it's harder than any work he's ever done in his life. So there's nothing as harder as sitting for 14 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day learning Torah. It demands tremendous stamina, tremendous, much harder than any job you'll ever do. They said that at this what do you call it? The first drink that you have, calms you down, right? The first thing. So you make Kiddush Friday night. 6 days you work, and then the Torah says, and on Shabbos you rest. You know, you got to turn it on and turn it off. You know, how do you turn it on? Or you just came home from a job. In the old days, people used to come home, you know, an hour before Shabbos. So barely half hour before Shabbos. You work till 5 o'clock, come home, take a bath. Then you're running and chasing all week. How do you unwind? Well, you have some Kiddush wine, right? Oh, you know, yeah. Then you have another cup. You know, why didn't you say so? Man, all of a sudden the world, hey, let's sing some Zmiros. You know, yeah. You know, all of a sudden, you know, when you come home, you're not in a Zmiros mood. All of a sudden, hey, you know, Yom Zamechu. You know, all of a sudden, why, you know, it's a very real, because the Torah understands what we are as people. As I tell you, my favorite, I like the daytime Kiddush more than the nighttime Kiddush, because I come home from shul and I haven't had anything to eat, and all I've had is a cup of coffee or two. And so it's already 11 o'clock in the morning. I've been up since 6, you know, and I have that first cup of wine, and then kaboom, you know, kaboom. You know, then the second one really puts you away, you know. Then there's, of course, a shot after the chol, you know, and then they wonder why we get horizontal afterwards. Okay, so the idea here is that the first cup of wine relaxes you. That's the lamb stage. What does the next cup do? And in the line, it emboldens you. All of a sudden, you're like, you know. And then there's that person at the cocktail party who you'd like to meet, right? That's only after the second shot, because now you're brazen like a lion, right? Or if you got to go into the boss and demand a raise, right? You have a couple of shots and you go in, and then you have to stay emboldened like a lion to tell your wife that you're unemployed because you've been fired, right? Because you were too tough with the boss. Right? So that's a lie. What happens in the next stage? Next stage is the monkey stage. That's when you're already getting silly and you're up on a table performing with the lampshade on your head and you think you're oh so clever and everybody else just thinks you're annoying. And then the fourth stage is the chazer stage, when you're lying in the gutter, swimming in various bodily fluids, right? And you're just gross, right? And now what's the Medrash telling us? Why do I need a Medrash to tell me that? I know that, just drink and you'll find out yourself. Why do I need, I had a guy here once who went on a shidduch. Guy at the yeshiva years ago. Really good guy, top quality guy. So he'd gone out, he was, you know, wanted to get married. He'd gone out a few times. Really a top quality guy, had a good job, he made a very good presentation. The girls never wanted to go out a second time. He'd meet these girls, he'd meet them, and the girls weren't interested in a second meeting. So he finally spoke to the shadchan, one of the shadchan. She said, the girl said, when you're too nervous. They said, you're too nervous, you're quiet, and you're too nervous, you're uptight, and what do you call it? So he came to me and I said to him, listen, do yourself a favor. The next time you go out, take a bottle of Jack Daniels, take a couple of shots, and go out and be yourself, relax. I said, okay. So I see him, and next shidduch, so he does it, follows the advice, right? Should have paid me for it, right? takes a couple of shots of Jack. He goes out, I see him when he comes back. He said, how was it? It was great. A great shidduch, it was a great time. He was himself, he was loose, okay. I see him the next day, he looks despondent. I said, what happened? Because the girl didn't want to go out again. So he goes, what happened? I said, I called the shotgun. What happened? She smelled alcohol on my breath. She didn't want to. So that was the last time. That was the last time I gave that advice. He's happily married since then. He's happily married to a girl whose father who owns a distilling company. But what do you call it? By the way, we had a guy in the yeshiva. I'll tell you a true story. We had a guy in the yeshiva who was there for a couple of weeks. Who was completely secular, had no observance whatsoever. He was there for a couple of weeks, and he was and he wasn't going to stay, and he was going to leave the yeshiva. And Shabbos afternoon, he went to one of the rabbi's house for a Shabbos meal. And after the chalt, the rabbi bends down, opens out, he brings out a bottle of Jack Daniels. So the guy looks and goes, "Rabbis drink? I'm staying," right? And he stayed in the yeshiva and he became from after what he called. Yeah, he thought that we're priests, that we only drink in secret. No, we drink out in the open. Yeah, we're willing to do Yeah, he changed his name to Yaakov Daniels, and he's what do you call it? And there, that was. So you say, well, what's the big? I had another guy who became from, he became from. I asked the guy, what? I asked the guy. This happened. The other one was a different rabbi. I asked the guy, what inspired you to change? He says it was Purim. I said, what about Purim inspired you to be changed? He says, well, I saw all these drunk yeshiva guys walking. I saw yeshiva guys could be normal, so I decided I want to be a yeshiva guy. Because his normal after 4 years in college, his normal is, the day I had a guy here who told me his roommate in college was such an alcoholic. He had beer everywhere he went, beer in a car, beer here, beer there. He used to put beer in his Cheerios in the morning. That was yeah. How do you like that? Yeah, yeah, have you had that?
It's called an Australian breakfast.
Yes. Yeah, that I can believe. Yeah. And lunch and supper. Yeah. Okay. So why do we need the medrash? What do you need the medrash for? We know what the effect. The answer is the medrash is telling you there is nothing in the world that is an inherent good or bad. Cyanide is also usually recommended to avoid cyanide, right? But there are certain times where cyanide is good. You got to poison certain people who need dying, so you got to poison them, right? Snake venom is generally discouraged, but they use snake venom as an anti, right? They use it in medications. Nothing is an inherent good or not good. Tell you, where does drinking come in Yiddishkeit? Where does drinking? There's nothing wrong with having a drink. There's nothing wrong with having a drink. To get to the point where you're behaving like a monkey, that's a problem. And a person has something you don't know your limit. That we don't do. But they have a drink to relax, there's nothing wrong with it. They have a drink to make kiddush, there's nothing wrong with it. We know what happens. There's nothing. The Medrash is telling you there are 4 stages. 2 stages are acceptable, 2 stages are not acceptable. That's the idea. Okay. Take a look at Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Aleph. Now, I want to show you something that in Perek Yud Aleph, first on Perek Yud, before anything. The Torah starts describing the various generations here. And if you look on page 46, so the Torah says, V'kush yolad es Nimrod, 3 lines from the top. On page 46, V'kush yolad es Nimrod, hu heichal lios gibor ba'oretz. Cush gave birth, 3 lines at the top of page 46. Cush gave birth to a man named Nimrod who began to be a Gibor Ba'aretz. Now Rashi, if you're right, top line of Rashi, right column, Leos Gibor, what does that mean? The word Nimrod is it's related to Nimrod, Lahamrid Kola Olam ala Kodesh Baruch Hu. He caused the whole world to rebel against God. Ba'atzas Dor HaFloga, in the generation of the tower, right? And we'll see in a second. We're going to get to the tower in a second. But here you got this guy Nimrod, which the Torah, in the written Torah, describes as he who heichal lios gibor ba'aretz. He became how does Rashi say? A mighty man on earth. That's how the Art Scroll translates, which is terrific. But when you look at Rashi, and Rashi tells us what did he really do? The Gemara says that he caused a rebellion against God. So he's not such a good guy. Unfortunately, at one point in Israel, I don't know, still at one point, this was a very popular name among secular Israelis, Nimrod. Nimrod was a very popular name because to name a kid Nimrod is like name a kid Haman. That's the equivalent, you know, and it was a very popular name because there's a Vahirachal Gibor Lo'aretz. And he starts and he creates this rebellion against God. Now I want you to show something Rav Mendel Weinbach Zatzal, the Rosh Yeshivat Ohr Somayach. So he told me a fascinating idea here. Vatehi Reishis Mamlachto, 5th line. Bavel, his kingdom extended from Bavel, Ve'erech, Ve'akad, Ve'chalne, Be'eretz Shinar. There's a region called Shinar, of which Bavel is one of those lands. Min ha'aretz ahi yotza Ashur. A man named Ashur left. Vayiven es Ninve ves Rechovos ir ve'es Kolach. A man named Ashur left, and he built 3 also regions, towns, countries, whatever they're called, Ninve, Rechovos ir, and Kolach. Now why don't you look at Rashi? It's the right column, 5 lines from the top. Very subtle point here, gentlemen. If you find it, please show the person next to you. Rashi is the Pasuk Yud Aleph. Min ha'aretz. This man named Ashur leaves. Everybody see it? 5 lines from the right column of Rashi, 5 lines from the top on page 46. Min ha'aretz. Why did this man Ashur leave? Shekevan shera Ashur esbonov shomin leNimrod. When Ashur saw that his children were obeying Nimrod, umordim b'makom livdos amigdal, they rebelled against God to build a tower. Yotza mitocham. He rejected and he left. Who descends from this man Ashur? The first city or town is Nineveh. What do we know about Nineveh? Anybody remember where did Yonah, the prophet, is sent to Nineveh to tell them that they're going to be destroyed. Who, by the way, you know the Medrash says, who was the king of Nineveh? Paro. Paro was taken out of the Yam Suf, and he was transplanted to Nineveh, became the king of Nineveh, which explains why they did tshuva. Can you imagine? You're the Paro, and this old Jew with the beard comes in and says, hi, if you don't get your act together, we're going to trash this joint. And the king is like deja vu. Yeah, I've been through this once before. You know, hey guys, everybody let's go guys. Well, no more boils. No more blood. You know, I've had it. All right, but Rav Weinbach said, why did the city of Nineveh merit to do tshuva? Why were they even given a warning? Why did they merit? Remember we spoke earlier about the ancestors creating merit for the descendants? Well, look what their ancestor did. This guy Ashur walked away from the trouble. He saw that the behavior was inappropriate. So he abandoned Nimrod in his rebellion with proper motivation. And therefore, generations later, who becomes? It's his descendants that end up doing tshuva in Nineveh. There's a merit from the forefathers there. That's where Nineveh gets the strength. That's it. All it all comes back. Okay. Then we get to one of the more bizarre episodes of the Torah on page 48. All right, this has to be understood. Vayehi kol haaretz safa echos, and I tell you, you see so much in human nature, and you see our world in this. It's unbelievable. Page 46, 5 lines from the top. Vayehi kol haaretz safa echos udvarim achodim. The world was one language, and they were one. How does he translate it? And of common purpose. Okay, that's a pretty good. What do you call it? Okay. Now look at the Rashi. Brings several perushim, but if you look at the right column, 4th line from the top, after the parentheses. So Rashi says, Amru, Echad le'elef v'tarnu shonim. Once every 1,656 years, Harakia mismotet, the heavens kind of crumble. Kishem she'asa b'mei amabel. So we're talking about 1,656 years after the flood. Every 1,656 years, Bo v'nasa l'samochos, we better go and make support system for the heavens so that they don't collapse and then flood the earth. Now, that means that when did the original flood take place? 1656 years after the creation of the world. So they look at the statistics and they look at the data and they decide, well, we better watch it because it seems every 1656 years the world, the heavens there's some sort of loosening of the bolts up there. we better do something to reinforce things. Exactly how they plan to do it, I don't know, but that's what they said. Okay, now what's the lesson here? I mean, these people weren't idiots. I don't know if you know anything about statistics and data and statistics, but you know, let's read the data. What data is available? At one time in history, there was a flood, and the flood took place after every 1,656 years after creation. I mean, how's that for a basis of projecting how often this is going to happen? Right? It's not much as far as data and statistics, is it? Yet they come in, and look how precise they are. 1,656 years. So, ooh, they're very, with that data and information. So, you know, we look at it and we think, nobody does that. Really? Really? They find fossils and they tell you, well, based on carbon dating, these fossils are exactly 4,297,000,000 12 years and 3 seconds old. Right? What is your data? What are you basing that on? You're basing it, and what are you taking into account? Remember, all the carbon dating is dating backwards, and it assumes that everything has been stable, everything has been constant since the time of creation, which we say it hasn't been. You worry that you soak the world in a sulfur solution for a year. It's going to have an effect on what bones and fossils look like. The flood was worse. Coca-Cola is worse. You want to know something? My mother, she live and be well, she lives with us, and she has a feeding tube. And every once in a while, this feeding tube gets clogged up. There's a feeding tube with liquid that she has. The feeding tube gets clogged up. And my wife takes care of her, and she was working on trying to break it up. She didn't know what to do. She called one of the chief nurses from Hadassah Hospital. A woman lives on our block. So what do we do to clear out this feeding tube? What do you do when this happens? She said, pour in Coca-Cola. And that's what we've been doing ever since. Well, you pour in Coca-Cola, and between 20 minutes and 2 hours, it dissolves whatever is clogging it up. Nothing else works. No RC, and certainly no RC, and certainly not Dr. Pepper. Right? Not Dr. Pepper. I mean, you use Dr. Pepper, nobody will respect you. Right? So I hope nobody here nobody drinks Dr. Pepper. Right? So and certainly nobody would admit it in public. You know, Mountain Dew maybe. You know, that's got a lot of caffeine. Right? Remember their commercial for Yahoo! Mountain Dew. That was their. I didn't know what they were so happy about. It's got more caffeine than cola. Right? I wish I would have known that as a kid. But so they pour in Coca-Cola. So a guy told me recently he had kidney stones. He had kidney stones. Kidney stones is bad. And he had to go. He was in agony, and he read online somewhere he drank 1.5 liters of Coca-Cola. Right? He read, dissolved it. Right? Now, if Coca-Cola does that, right? So you could imagine. Well, yeah, imagine what it's doing to us. Yeah, drop a chicken bone in Coca-Cola and look at it 24 hours later. Right? So you can imagine what bones looked like when they were soaking in hot sulfur for a year. So the statistics are being based on silly data. You're making all sorts of assumptions to come up with these theories and what do you call it? So you see that nothing's new under the sun, because that's what they did over here. So they decide they're going to go build a tower. Now, did you ever hear the Medrash? Now, look what they decide to do. And you'll see two puzzling things here. Vayehi benasa mikedem, they travel from the east. Vayimtzu bika be'eretz shinar. Does he translate as a valley? It's a plain or a valley. They find a valley in the land of Shinar. Vayeshu sham. Vayomru ishal re'eu. Hava nilbana levanim. Let's make bricks. V'disr falesrefa will fire up the furnace. V'tehila im alevena la'av, and they use bricks instead of stones. V'achemer hayalem lechomer, and they use some sort of mortar that they made. Vayomru, one more pasuk. Hava nivda lanu ir umigdal v'rosha b'shamayim, will build a city with a tower in the heavens. V'nasa lanu shem, will make a name for ourselves. Pen nafutz al pnei kol ha'aretz, will be scattered over the earth. So at surface level, it looks like, hey, the unity of mankind. Right? We're gonna make one. We're gonna make a euro. Right? We have one coin that's gonna unite all of Europe, even though they're not united. Right? We'll unite all of mankind under one banner. So there are two questions here. You're going to build a tower into the heavens. If you wanted to build a tower to reach the heavens, what would you use? What kind of ground would you start on?
Stone. High elevation.
A high elevation, yeah. I would probably, climb a mountain. Find a nice high mountain or a nice high elevation. Go to Denver, and go build your Go build your tower into the heavens in Denver. I'm not going to go to Death Valley. I'm not going to go down to Sodom and go build my tower over there. I'm going to go up to high elevation and start building your tower. Because where do they go? They go to a valley. First thing, you go to a valley. Doesn't make any sense. Number one. Number two, the Torah doesn't tell us many details about it. A lot of things the Torah leaves out details. It's like Avram Avinu, we'll see later on when he gets involved in a world war, and he defeats the 4 kings, defeat the 5 kings, and Avram Avinu defeats the 4 kings. The entire world war takes 2 psukim. He chased them, beat them, and went home. That's the whole thing. It's like, he went, nuked them, and that was it. That was all. There's no details, right? There's nothing about planes crashing and what are those things called? Those unmanned, what are they called? No drones and no, what do you call it? No, what's that? UAV and what do you call it? No mad leaders threatening to nuke everything. Just, he went, conquered, and went home, right? Goodbye. Here, the Torah starts going, all of a sudden, well, they decided, let's go make some bricks. And then the Torah says, not only they said let's do it, the bricks became their stones. Okay, if you say so. You know what? I mean, is that how important is that really in the grand scheme of things here? All right. So the answer is that what's really going on here. Let me I'll give you an example. They had the first, I think the first, what do you call it? What was it that they went up in? Voyager, what's it called?
The spaceship.
Yeah, what was it called?
Apollo 1.
What's it called?
Apollo 1.
No, man. Apollo 1. What's it called? The shuttle. Space shuttle. The space shuttle was called, what's called? Voyager. The Voyager went up, Voyager came down. The second one, I think, was called Discovery. Yeah, up, down. The third one was called Challenger. Challenger exploded. All right. Now, there's somebody once pointed out, it's interesting. You want to voyage, go voyage. You want to go discover, go discover. You want to challenge? Who are you challenging exactly? You want to challenge? I'll see your challenge and raise you one explosion. Who are you challenging over here? All right. Speculation. I'm only saying it's just ironic. Okay. They send up Challenger. Challenger blows up. Imagine one of the spokesmen from NASA then comes out, and the spokesman from NASA says, "Oi, this is terrible, the loss of life, the terrible loss of life, 7 people." If you could get that NASA spokesman alone in a room with a lie detector and ask him, what are you really upset about? What do you think he's really upset? You think he's upset about the loss? I'm sure he's upset about the loss of life. I'm sure it might have taken him 15 minutes later that he ate his lunch, right? What's he really upset about? What he's really upset about is the setback of his space program and the advance of mankind. That's what he's really upset about. He could care less about a couple of school teachers up in that he doesn't care about. He cares about what his life and the money and the investment. Do you know that there's a medrash, one of the earliest midrashim we heard as kids, is that, it sounds like somebody's a ridiculous amount. When they went up building this tower, when a human being would fall and die, nobody cared. When a brick fell and broke, then everybody mourned it. Everybody was upset. Whatever. I'm a human being to make bricks and carry bricks. What do you think the Medrash is telling you? What were they really upset about here? What was going on here? The answer is this was all an attempt to display man's strength. If we unite, we put all our resources together, and we could push God out of the picture. Watch this. We could go down into a valley. We don't even need to take advantage of a hill of high elevation. And not only that, we don't need stones. We'll make our own bricks. We'll do it all on our own. And then when a brick breaks, symbolically, that's a setback to man's advance. When a brick falls, that's a setback to man's advance. The entire attempt here, the entire theme, which looks on surface level, hey, let's all mankind unite under one banner, especially for liberals. Let's all unite under one banner. right? And keep out the conservatives, right? Let's all unite under one banner, right? Terrific. That's all wonderful and marvelous. But what's it really for? Is to say, get God out of the picture. Yeah. Oh, so Kosh Baruch Hu says, oh, you want me out of the picture? So I'll show you that I'm very much in the picture. So it comes along, what is Vayomer Hashem? Oh, they're all united. This is what they began to do. Hashem says, you know what? Let's scatter them. And at this point, everybody gets scattered with different languages and broken off into different regions. And from that point on, what happens as a result of mankind's dispersal? What have we had since then with no let up? There's a one word in English, 3 letters, called war. It's called war, right? Why? Most wars, nobody even knows why we're fighting. Nobody understands. Why are they fighting in Russia and Ukraine? Nobody says, what's the point of it? What's the point? When's it going to end? Like World War I, they were shooting at each other. The English and the French were shooting each other, not the English, the French and the Germans were shooting each other from through the trenches. Over 100 yards of real estate. They fought, I think, about 2 or 3 years, slaughtering each other. Right? And at some point, hey, fellas, why are we doing this? Not sure. Keep on shooting. Right? That's why. That's also, Mina Kenegame. You wanted to unite? I will create a situation there will never be unity in the world. And you could call it whatever you want, all mankind are equal, and at the end of the day, even the United States, a great melting pot where all men are created equal. All men are created equal. Yet in World War II, they rounded up Japanese American citizens and put them in detention centers because there was a war going on. I thought, well, Japanese citizens are just as American as anybody else. You're an American citizen, yeah, but you're Japanese, and there's a war going on with Japan. Don't give me a hard time. Get in there, kid. Right? That was because we all know that it doesn't work. People are different, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the difference, and that difference is never going to be erased. See you tomorrow, gentlemen. We got to keep the air on.